HDFC Bank had called for some agency pitch. There was a person called Kavita Joshi there, and she gave me a call and she said, Vivek, I don't know how to explain it, but I've never felt so much pride working with a partner. You say, like, what happened? So you say, there was this agency would come. They started a presentation. The middle of the presentation, they asked me who am I working with. So I said that we're working with Communicate2. You won't believe it, Vivek. They shut down the presentation.
Oh, really? Okay.
They didn't complete the presentation. They said that no, you won't work with us, and we may not be able to deliver as much value as you desire. She was shocked.
So basically, a competition just bowed out.
Just imagine, right? In the middle of the presentation, he refused to continue the presentation. I said, like, this is the best compliment I've ever received for the company that we built.
Welcome to Sell Side Conversations. Our guest today is Vivek Bhargava. Vivek is a serial entrepreneur who founded Communicate2, sold it to Dentsu, and now is a co-founder of Consumer.ai. In our conversation with Vivek, we'll talk about his entrepreneurial journey, his experiences, and much more. Hi Vivek, welcome to Sell Side Conversations. It's a pleasure having you over here. So Vivek, let's start about from the beginning. Let's talk about your childhood, your educational background, some of the influences that you had in your early years, and how did it all shape up to your first job or first venture that you sort of embarked upon?
Okay, it's going to be a long story.
All right, it'll be an interesting one.
So, actually I had a very, very charmed childhood, right? So there were two parts of the charm. One was my early years in Bombay. My father had this apartment in Nepean Sea Road. I used to study in Beach Candy School, which used to be a Beach Candy school. And then suddenly at the age of about 6 or 7, generally we would go to Lonavala, come back for 2 days. Suddenly we'll end up in a place called Mussorie.
Okay.
So complete opposite end of India. And I didn't know as a 6-year-old that we are going there permanently, right? Because nobody tells a 6-year-old kid that you are shifting places.
Correct.
We thought, okay, 2 days we'll come back, like my friends are here, etc., right? But it turned out to be that my father had suffered a huge loss in a business that he was doing in the chemicals. And our musical instruments business, which is a family business, would continue to do well. But he just decided to take a break. So for like 8 to 9 years, he just decided to shift to Mussorie.
Wow.
We bought this colonial mansion, which was basically 120 years old. It was like a place called Adair. And it was just an amazing place to live because we had this place. I had a horse to myself. I had a dog. A horse. The horse used to take me to school.
Wonderful.
So it was just amazing that, sometimes, and I think that shaped me a lot. So quickly I became the Mussorie champion, Dehradun district champion, state level player. I played the nationals in the under 14 category.
Oh, wonderful.
And in schools in Mussorie, right, academics are not that important. If you are a sports person, you are the charmed child in the school. But I think one thing that taught me was that you can take a person from one location to the other, and overall you can become, let's say, set and make a new set of friends, right? Which is a very different kind of friendship. So I think that ability to make friends and likability, I got a very early lesson in it because suddenly I was in a place where I didn't know anybody.
You do adapt yourself to different situations and different environments.
Yeah. Then what happened was that Mussorie did not have a good college. So when I reached about 8th standard, 9th standard, my dad decided to come back to Bombay.
Okay.
And I think that was extremely sort of a downer in my life. Then I was trying to show my horse riding skills to my friends and cousins on Juhu Beach. The horse fell on me.
Oh my God.
So again, I was fractured my leg. So I think basically what happened was that suddenly I realized that, I was treated in a certain way in Mussorie and I was treated very differently in Bombay. The teachers, the friends. So suddenly I realized that, if you're not successful in whatever you do, then you're not going to be treated nice by the world. So for that 2 years, I just did nothing but study.
Okay.
So when I passed out in ICICI, I got 83.2, which used to be considered a good percentage in those days. So I got into Sidram and NM. And I think that was a very early lesson that I got, that if I don't work hard and be in that top 1 percentile of the world, then I'm not going to be treated well. So I always think to myself that, okay, if I don't work hard, then I may be treated in life the way I was treated in Bombay Scottish for 2 years. And then this I shared it on my school forum.
Got it.
So this is something which everybody realized.
So the importance of sort of being the best in whatever you do, that's
Absolutely. And I just remind myself, right? Because all I've realized is that that was not a good period of life for me, because I was always treated special. And that 10 years I was treated special. So then when I was not treated special, I didn't like it. So I said, okay, let me now work hard and make sure that I'm in that top percentile. So I want to be treated special.
wonderful.
Which obviously is not the best thing in entrepreneurship, because in entrepreneurship you're treated like shit all the time whenever you start something new.
So Vivek, how did it all lead up to your first venture or a first business or a first job? How did it sort of all happen? I mean, you've given your background of a childhood.
Yeah.
Did you take up a job after you sort of graduated from college, or was it entrepreneurship right from the beginning?
Okay. So our family business is musical instruments.
Okay.
So basically we have this carrot rule in our family. All the kids, when they are about 13, 14, 15 years of age, are told that if you come and attend office.
Like, what is carrot rule?
So I'm explaining it.
Okay.
Carrot is like, you put a carrot in front of a
Carrot
donkey,
and stick approach.
right? So
Okay.
this is the carrot rule. So they said, if you come and attend office, you do bank reconciliation statements, you attend the retail outlet, etc., then we'll take you abroad every 2-3 months. And this was like exhibitions and trade fairs in Europe or Paris, etc. So this 13-year-old kid, I would tell everybody, all my friends, that I was in Paris yesterday. The thing is, I realized later that we were the cheapest labor our family could find, because the cost of an air ticket, the kid would work for 12, 13, 14 hours a day. Even in the night, he says, beta coffee bana do, ye kar do. So you would actually have this person working for you for 5 days at the cost of an air ticket. But the exposure it gave me was phenomenal. And then what happened was I started attending trade fairs in US and other places. So that was my early sort of introduction to business, learning from my uncle, learning from my father, learning from my cousins on how business is done with multiple nationalities. And that actually set the seed for my new company, which is Communicate2, which was in those days a new company. So basically what happened was I was sitting with my father in US, and I would stay back in US with my friends. And I was fascinated with how internet was evolving in the US in those days. And I felt that, Indian companies are not good at marketing communication, and using technology for marketing communication was even a bigger lacuna area. So I discussed this with my dad. So my dad said, okay, ek kaam karte hain, you start a company, but don't leave the family business.
But let me just stop you over there.
Yeah.
Where did the germ come from when you said, Indian companies were not good at marketing themselves? Can you give a specific example where you saw the dichotomy was so sharp that you realized there is a need gap over there?
So actually, when I started looking at US, right, I think US is probably a culture which is built on marketing. So
Absolutely.
what will happen is that you go to a small stream, which is like really, it's just a very small stream, but there will be a memorabilia shop, there'll be merchandising, there'll be photography points, and there'll be tickets, and people will charge $10 for entry of that place. Here you can have a Taj Mahal.
Absolutely.
And there is hardly marketing about it, right? So I felt that, and I think if you ask me, right, at some level, right, the culture of India, we are taught to be humble. The problem is humility is not good for marketing, right? So what happens is that, and using technology was even a bigger lacuna area. So I thought to myself that, okay, can I help large companies in India use technology to make their marketing more effective?
Got it.
So that was a germ. That's how Communicate2 started. And this was 1997, right? So it was almost
Just early
a
days of-
naive thing to do.
This very early days.
Right? So I still remember I had gone for this pitch where I wanted this company to make a website. So after a 2-hour pitch on the internet and how the website can benefit, etc., the chairman of the company said, okay, Vivek, I'm convinced. And I said, yippee. Right? He said, I'm convinced to get an internet connection for the company.
Oh,
So I said, listen, I'm not a sales guy for VSNL, right? So what do you mean internet connection with the company? Are you going to make a website? He said, no, once we start using the internet, give us 6 months, 12 months. After that, you come back to us. I said, I'm going to pay salaries this month. You can't wait for 12 months for you to make a website, right?
Correct.
But I think we found a interesting solution. What we had done was that the early days of Communicate2, we started making CD ROMs for companies. So like a lot of people maybe not even know what a CD ROM is. So basically what we should do is we would take the company brochure, put a CD ROM in it, which would have a video, this, etc., and then give this brochure back to the company. He said, okay, now your digital transformation is complete. You have a CD ROM in your brochure.
Correct. So that was their digital equivalent in those days.
So, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu went to US to raise capital for Andhra Pradesh. He had taken a CD ROM that we had made.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ban had launched in India, which is an ERP software in Hyderabad. The CD ROM made for Ban was made by us. So we actually became this CD ROM king of India early days when people were still not making websites or not doing digital marketing per se.
CD ROM was the precursor to everything else.
Yeah.
So how did you sort of now graduate from making CD ROMs to becoming the SEO king? Because I remember, Communicate2 is known as the SEO king, and one of the first companies coming out of India to start off and the whole SEO revolution.
Actually, if you honestly ask me, right, it's a very funny story. What you said is right. We were known as SEO kings, but actually, for the first 7-8 years of the company, we didn't do SEO.
Oh.
Right. So I tell you what happened. Right. So basically, what happened was, I was fascinated how Google AdWords system worked, because I felt that conventional media had mainly 2 or 3 challenges. Right. The first challenge was conventional media showed you an ad of a washing machine when you actually wanted to buy a car. Secondly, a Unilever of the world would get a 80% discount on large volume buys, while a SMEs would pay full price.
Full price.
Thirdly, what would happen is that there was no measurement, right? So you don't know what results you were getting. What AdWords in those days did was that, first of all, allowed you to target intent. So you search for washing machine, you get ads of washing machine. Secondly, it was an auction buy. So everybody was the auction democratized the buying process.
Correct.
And thirdly, you could actually measure it. You could generate a lead, you could convert it into a sale. So I thought to myself that this is something which is going to become very big. So I started putting a lot of effort in building the expertise. Luckily, I also had relationships with agencies in UK and US. We started doing some offshore work for them.
Okay.
So we would get training from the UK agencies of how search was done.
Oh, really? Okay.
And we were able to use that training to look at the enterprise market in India, like ICICI Bank and all these large companies who were doing paid search with us. So SEO was, people were charging more 6-7 lakh rupees for SEO annually, so 50,000 rupees a month. And people were spending, 30-40 lakh rupees on paid search every month, and we would make 4 to 5 lakh rupees a month. So there was just 10x the value that we were getting for paid search. In SEO, you could discontinue, you couldn't go up and down, but in paid search, you had to do paid search every month. We had to customer acquire.
Correct.
So the first 8-10 years, I actually didn't do any SEO.
Okay.
We just became the paid search king of India,
marketing,
and we were the largest sort of SEM agency in the country. Then I remember I had gone for a meeting, and somebody introduced me as this expert on search, right? And search meant organic search.
Organic search.
So I gave a whole spiel on it. And then I said, okay, if people are putting 6 lakh rupees towards, SEO, and they're putting 5 crore rupees towards paid search, there's something wrong here. So I still remember this deck I had made.
Okay.
Right? The deck was that today you're spending, 5 crores a year. It gives you 1/3 of your traffic. 2/3 of your traffic is coming organic. That means the total value of that organic traffic is 10 crores.
Absolutely.
Right? The conversion of that is double of paid. The conversion rates of SEO is double. So that 10 crores actually is worth 20 crores. So if you're investing, you should be investing 20 crores on SEO. You invest 6 lakh rupees, right? So unless you love Google a lot more and you want to pay them for paid, you should be investing in SEO.
Correct.
So I said, okay, if not 20 crores, it's not 10 crores, not 5 crores. You need to invest at least 1.5, 2 crore rupees in SEO. So I still remember they agreed and they decided to pay me 1.5 crores.
So which client was this? One of your first clients too? If you can name them.
So actually I don't want to name them.
Okay.
Because I don't want to say that they are the first guys who paid me 1.5 crores from 6
Okay.
lakh rupees. But really what happened is, right, when you instead of 6 lakh rupees, when you charge, let's say 7 lakh rupees, you have to justify it. When you charge 1.5 crores, they have to find justification.
Correct.
And then what I did was that as soon as this happened, I realized the opportunity out here. And one of my person who had come to train us earlier was this guy called Ben Hayes.
Okay.
Right. And I said, okay, he's the best expert that I know in SEO in UK. And UK digital marketing is far superior than US digital marketing. For the agency ecosystem is stronger in UK.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's actually a very interesting story. A lot of the Googles and Metas of the world went to clients directly, and the clients threw them off. So the agencies and the agency threw them off. So they built an entire servicing team who act like an agency. So a lot of clients in US are actually direct working with the platforms.
Got it.
In UK, basically what happened was that they created this thing called best practices funding, where they would give certain amounts back to the agencies.
Got
So
it.
the whole ecosystem in UK became agency led.
Okay.
So that built up a lot more expertise in the agency world in UK. So Ben Hayes was very good in SEO in those days. So I got him to India. One gloomy day, I told him that, listen, come to Bombay. He didn't know that it rains as much as in Bombay or more. So he came over. I put him up in a place which is walking distance from the office. My house help, I transferred to his house for a year.
All right.
I said, I
Okay.
don't want this guy to go back.
Okay.
But then what happened was
So you
he
bought him for
allowed
a
us.
year.
No, so he stayed with us for 5-7 years till the time he sold to Dentsu.
Wow. Okay.
Right? He actually is now settled down in India.
Oh,
He now
interesting.
lives in India and works at an agency, right? So basically what happened was that allowed us to build an SEO practice. And that entire SEO practice became our most profitable practice. But in a way, it was the switch that we made from 6 lakh rupees to 1.5 crore rupees, a crore rupees, 2 crore rupees for SEO projects. And the value we delivered to clients was phenomenal, right? Because organic really deliver them a lot of value.
So, I mean, that's fascinating that 6.5 lakhs to a crore, crore and a half. The amounts are 20x kind of a value. How did you convince clients that hey, this is investment? Obviously, you showed them the metric that this delivers 2x results. But when you're talking to a CMO or a CEO, how do you convince them? Hey, this is you're going to get your bang for the buck. What are some of the challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome those things?
Yeah. See, Gautam, what I've seen is, right, I think you have to understand the client's business and you have to see what value your product or service can deliver. Because a lot of times people focus on pricing, right? Pricing is actually just based on how much value you can deliver. So for me, the decision was very simple, right? You're investing 5 crores on paid search while you're getting 4x the conversions through organic. Both traffic is double and the conversion rate is double. So if that is the case, 20 crores is the value that you can receive. We should not be investing at least half or 1/3 of a paid search money towards organic. And that remains true today. You take the total paid search market, if it's $100, the total organic investments that companies make must be $5, right? But the fact of the matter, it could be a lot more than that.
Absolutely.
And those days, paid search was not so pronounced, right? Today, in fact, paid search and a lot of results of Google, organic gets pushed down quite a lot. In the mobile, you can hardly see any organic results, right?
Correct.
When those days, organic was right up there. They used to have only one paid search ad on top. So everything was organic. So I think investments in organic had to be made. And I was very convinced that if the sort of the clients would make that investment, then they will get a ROAS which is far superior than what they can get from paid media. And more importantly, after you sort of got that, right, then it's very critical that, see, I could have hired the same people who are doing a 6 lakh rupee SEO and then try to charge, right? But that would not work long term. I had to then get the best guy that I knew at that point in time in the world, not only in India,
Got it.
in SEO, and get him to India and then help him build, train people who can deliver that kind of value. So I think it's very important. A lot of the entrepreneurs go wrong is that they are able to get a better price because of their sales abilities or the narrative they build, but they don't want to follow up on it and actually deliver on that value, because you can only survive in the market and build a large profitable business in SEO if you actually then deliver 10x of what other people are delivering. Because you're charging 10x price, you probably have to deliver
And
20x.
that is true for almost all businesses. You've got to deliver value, in the long run.
And then you had case studies, right? Then I would say, okay, listen, this was the company. They were doing this much of paid search. This was the conversion they were getting. They were getting organic this much. Now they invested this 1.5 crores. This is the value they received. So they've received 6 crores of value in 1 year. You stop paid search today, your traffic stops completely tomorrow.
Got it.
You stop SEO today, your traffic still continues.
Got it.
And over a period of time, you build this domain reputation and search result reputation. And how it works is, right, when you get the first rank, then people click on it, then Google puts you more.
Got it. So that engine works.
It's a virtuous cycle.
Exactly. So Vivek, let's sort of now talk about Communicate2, because that was your first baby. How did you sort of just talk us to about scaling? How did it go from 1 client to 20 clients to 100 clients? How did that journey evolve? How did the business development process of clients coming on board and the virtuous cycle sort of kickstart? One client telling the other, hey, listen, go to this guy, and then you kickstart the virtuous cycle. So just talk us through that process, because that is where your organic search for the company sort of kicked in.
So I think, so how first of all, when it started, was very interesting, right? My father told me to appoint
Yeah.
a general manager, and once it becomes good, then you basically get into it full time. So I was reading these Zig Ziglar books and talking about, like, burning your boats, where you don't have a plan B. So I said, no, I will leave the family business. And I told everybody that I will never come back. And it was a big thing to say, right? Because at that point, I didn't know that it was going to succeed or not. And I think I went through a lot of tough times. If I had not made this crystal clear to the whole family, and I probably have a big ego, I would have gone back to the family business a lot of times. So that gave me the resolve and the tenacity and perseverance that I have to make this a success. I still remember we had taken this office, my old office of my uncle, who's a chartered accountant. They had these wires hanging. We would have, the first time when we went there was no female loo in the office. And I realized only after hiring a female employee. I convinced the restaurant opposite that our female employees will use your loo and pay you something per month. And I would
Okay.
confidently walk back and say, yeah, our female employees use the restaurant opposite the office, right? But I think in those days, as I said, like, because internet websites were not becoming popular yet, we figured out a way to deliver CD-ROM services,
CD-ROMs,
right?
correct.
Then what happened was we got the MTV project. So MTV's first website was done by us. UTV's first website was done by us.
Oh, interesting.
We won the first 2 Abbey Gold Awards of India. One was
Wonderful.
for the website called Sona Lisa, and we had done a very interesting project for MTV where you could disguise a VJ and send it to your friend, and they had to guess what VJ it is.
Oh, okay.
And this was all done through web technologies in those days on the
Those
browser,
days.
which was pretty tough to do in those days. We did the website for Mucchad Panwalla.
Oh yeah, that guy became very famous. He was
So-
all over.
So I still remember we had built a game where there is a building and people are spitting from the building. The Mucchad Panwalla has to make sure it doesn't hit the ground. And
Yeah, I remember this game.
So
Yes.
this game and doing this game on the web in the days where you had text on websites, right? Imagine doing that game on the web.
You have to
right?
move those four.
For that and play the game, etc.
Correct.
So it was a pretty, I think we always were very focused on innovation. We said, okay, if we have to communicate something for a client, like as VJ Disguise, then what happens is, and because you're MTV, the prize was that you get a date with the parents of the VJ. So it was quite ironic that this was the prize that we came up with. We had done something for Fair Globe and Real Good Chicken. We called it Myth Buster, where what are the myths about frozen chicken versus real good chicken.
Got it.
And that again was done on the web. So in those days, I think the innovation technology expertise we build up, I think we've always seen that a lot of agencies don't invest enough money on the tech talent. And the thing is, in I think in digital advertising, the tech talent actually gives you that innovation.
It gives you
from
the
a
alpha over there.
communication and the creative, right? But creative in tech is not about creative how we do it on print and television, right? Creative about tech is about creative in technology. So I've always
Absolutely.
had a good team of sort of technologists who would actually come out with creative ideas because they knew what could be possible to be done on technology.
Absolutely.
And that differentiated us. We were always a premium company, right?
So the intersection of creativity and technology, at the cusp of that is what, the premium was for those kind of people who would sort of manage both the sides.
So we used to charge a lot more than most companies, and then we had to deliver on it. And somebody had asked me that, Vivek, I've heard that you charge a lot more than other companies, so that's a problem. I said, like, it's not a problem. It's basically, it is something that I'm proud of, because the challenge is, right, if you look at the digital industry, what happens is you're giving, let's say, 90%, 95% of the cost to the platforms, right? That 5% that you spend on an agency, right? It used to be 15%, now it's probably down to 5%. The problem is that, let's say, suppose you reduce that 5%, make it 4%. So now the thing is, agency is going to make a profit. How are they going to make profit? Either they're going to spend less number of man-hours, or they're going to hire sort of inferior talent.
Absolutely.
That will end up wasting your 95% of the budget. If they waste 20% of that budget, by saving that 1%, you lost 20% on 100, right? So if you ask me, a lot of procurement, so I worked with almost 17 banks and financial institutions in the country.
Okay.
So insurance companies, mutual funds, your entire banks, you name the bank and they were my customers. I had 10 banks as customers. So you're dealing with procurement departments who are extremely,
Yeah, because the only thing they understand is the lowest cost.
Yeah.
Those guys are mostly clueless about other things.
Exactly. So I still remember I've had so many detailed conversations with them. And I proved to them that by spending more monies with us, you will save on that 90 and 95, which is the media cost. So don't try to negotiate on the fees. If I give you superior talent, if I spend more hours, man hours on your campaign, because see, generally what happens is in conventional media is a filter, right? This TV ad will go live or not. Digital, it goes live immediately and then you optimize thereafter.
Yeah.
So number of man hours and the kind of talent that you throw behind it makes a difference what ROI the client is going to get. So I think that proved the model, and I was able to get all these clients
So,
because
in a sense, if I understand what you're saying is, the key is to be able to communicate the value that you bring to the table to the stakeholder. In this case, it could be the procurement guys saying, yeah, this is the value, this is the metric. I think that is an important lesson for everybody who's trying to sort of move up the value chain and charge a premium for
and then deliver the value.
deliver the value. That's obviously the crucial part.
Right. Because what happens is that then do increase the quality of talent you have. Make sure that they're innovative. Make sure that you're training them well. Make sure they stay with you. Make sure that you are finding out what are the biggest challenges your clients face and figure out innovative solutions of solving those challenges, right? Because in digital, it was very important that you understand the client's business. Because just imagine you're working with insurance companies, you're working with banks. So I still remember, like say ICICI Bank, right? We used to work with them 20 years ago. I still remember what happened was that how I went the pitch was they were wanted to sell fixed deposits. So basically I said that listen, they said, okay, I'm getting leads at 100 rupees. Can you give it to me for 90 rupees?
Okay.
I said, let me explain to you my view. What if the lead comes at 500 rupees? He said, are you kidding me? I said, no, I'm not kidding. You are not in the business of generating leads. You are in the business of generating fixed deposits. So today you're getting 1,000 leads. They're giving you 5 crores of fixed deposits. What if I give you 100 leads, but they give you more than 5 crores of fixed deposits? So let's take, you're investing 10 lakh rupees a month today. You give me the same 10 lakh rupees. Let's not count the number of leads. Let's take the total of fixed deposits I raised for you, right? We ended up raising something like 16 crores of fixed deposits. The same budget.
Got it.
But I had keywords like Berkshire Hathaway. Now, Berkshire Hathaway, whenever you can spell it right, is a person. So one fixed deposit came for, I still remember, some 5 crore 25 lakhs, one fixed deposit.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then what we did was we said, okay, when we were selling personal loans, so I actually went and spent a day in the call center of ICICI Bank, and I found what the agents were doing.
Okay.
So what we found was that they were generating leads. They didn't know the intent of the user earlier. I said, what if you can transfer the intent of the user from the search string to the call center agent? So we created 5 buckets. Speed of dispersal, value of the offering in terms of percentage. So if the person was searching for personal loan rates, we would focus on the value offering, the percentage that we can offer. If people were searching for quick loan, then we focus on speed of dispersal.
Got it.
Even I remember there used to be a word called Novo chairs. These are dental chairs that cost about 15 lakh rupees.
Okay.
So a dental clinic, so all the doctors and dental practitioners get loans at very, very low rates.
Got
and they get up to 50 lakh rupee loans.
Okay.
Right? And personal loans are generally 2 lakh rupees, 1 lakh rupees, right? So what we found was that as soon as the Novo chair lead came in, we would pass it on to the regional manager in the call center. And
To
he
manage
would,
it. Okay.
and
Because
he would do that, listen, are you setting a dental practice? If you are, we have special rates from all these companies.
Got it.
And we have done this before. We can help you set up the clinic. So now the percentage of the loan amount, all these things became irrelevant.
got it.
But those then, we then expanded that category that what are the other things that are required, which can be a 50 lakh rupee loan. But transferring that intent to the call center agent, and once then there was a big fight between the call center agents because what was happening was they were working on commission. And because of the intent and the leads we were giving, they were making 4x the money of all the other call center agents. Everybody wanted to work on Google Leads,
Got it.
which is delivered by Communicate2. So I still remember
Interesting.
the problem we had of plenty. But again, I think when you look at some company which is a success, right, it's actually the incremental improvements that company has done at every single level of the organization, right from going to the call center agents and figuring out how they can convert better. Rather than just like, so what happens is when you improve something 1% every day, it leads to thousands of percent improvement at the end of the year, right?
But Vivek, now as your business scales up, because initially as a startup or a new company, the entrepreneur or the owner is responsible for that. Now, as your company scales up, how do you transmit the same energy and the same client consciousness to down the chain? How is it a process that you follow, or how do you do that?
Yeah. So I think it's very important that you establish culture in your organization early. So, I've had people who would come from different agencies, and internally, when we are sitting across a table, we would actually they would say something which was not very flattering to the client, right? So I put a stop to it there. I said, listen, whether the client is in the room or not, right? Whether the person is doing something which I find illogical, but we will never ever make fun of them,
Okay.
right? Regardless of what it is. We will always try to find out the business objective of the client, the business goals they want. We're going to work with them as partners as if we are going to work with them for the next 10 years. So let me give you an example, right? HDFC Bank used to work with us. They should spend a lot of money in Ogilvy, like 10 crores of, and they should spend 10 lakh rupees on digital. The servicing they required was almost the same that they expected from Ogilvy. So I would personally service the client. We would actually make a loss on that client at the 10 lakh rupees spends. But HDFC stuck around with us for 15, 20 years.
Wow.
At one time came when the digital spends exceeded the spends on other mediums.
Got
Right?
it.
So that's when we started making more monies. But
So
that
it's
it
like
took
you
us 10
invested for the
years.
long term.
And then every single person who's working in the organization, they see leadership. And basically people don't do what you tell them to do. They copy what you are doing. So if you have integrity, if you have authenticity, if you are truly concerned of the goals the client has and you help them sort of achieve those goals, then your whole team will follow suit. And people who don't have the philosophy will leave.
Will
Because
leave.
at the end of the day, if they're used to making fun of the client and they're used to promising things that they can't be delivered, etc., they will not
So
survive
the
in the
leader sets
environment.
the culture and the tone for
Absolutely.
everybody to follow. That's
Absolutely. And then you don't have to do it on a daily basis, right? You teach through sort of uh, experience that they receive when you're dealing with a client, right? Because what happens is you can't tell, oh, don't make fun of the client, and then you make fun of them,
absolutely.
right?
So lead by example. Interesting. So moving on from Communicate to, how did that whole journey with iProspect and then Dentsu? Can you sort of just talk us about that experiences, because that also was a big phase in your life where you scaled up that business considerably and
Yeah. So actually, it's a very interesting story how Dentsu deal happened.
Okay.
Right. So the first thing that happened was I used to go and speak at conferences across the world. So I spoke at AdTech in San Francisco and SEO conferences, search conferences. So the cheapest way to attend a conference for me was to speak there. Because when
Got
you
it.
speak there, then you get a free $2,000, $3,000 pass, right?
The
You have
speaker.
a speaker badge, then you get access to speaker lounge and you meet other large clients, right? So basically, I still remember I was in a panel discussion in AdTech San Francisco, and there's a gentleman called Nigel Morris who's now on my advisory board and he's an investor in ProfitWheel. He was one of the top guys in Dentsu. So at one point in time, he was handling $40 billion of Dentsu's business. So
Wonderful.
he
Wow.
came and sat next to me,
Okay.
and we got talking pre and post panel. And he said, Vivek, what you're doing in India is very exciting. If you ever find yourself in my woods, which was London, give me a shout. Right. So I made on the spot decision to change my flight back from San Francisco to India to go via London.
Okay.
Landed up in his office, spoke to him, and he landed up in India 1 month thereafter to acquire Communicate2.
Oh wow.
So that's how it happened.
That's how it
But
happened.
unfortunately, what happened was this conversation happened in 2007, 2008. We signed the definitive agreements. We threw a launch party, and then
Okay.
Lehman Brothers happened. So the whole deal actually
the
fell
financial
through.
meltdown happened.
Right. So basically, and that point of time, almost 80%, 90% of revenues came from banking, financial, insurance category.
Got it.
So just imagine you have 80 to 90% of business coming from one vertical, and that vertical just went
Just sort of
down. I still remember ICICI Bank used to spend some 50 lakhs a month with us. They went down to 5 lakhs.
Oh.
They said if you want a personal loan, you need to have a fixed deposit of double the amount, then we'll give you a loan. So I said that's
all those
ridiculous.
crazy
Right?
conditions were put on.
Right. So we actually then Dentsu could not complete the transaction, and it was a very, very tough phase for me because I had promised my employees they'll get money because of the ESOP they have. I told they will get technologies. We told my clients that this will happen. We threw a party, so it was in the press, right? So it was all public. So it's like they say that तो दुल्हन को मंडप पे छोड़ दिया right दुल्हन में कुछ खराबी होगी right but it was a pretty trying times but I'm so happy in hindsight that actually happened because until that time I was a cowboy right I believed I can do anything that 3 to 4 years I had to completely transform Communicate2 because we had to go from media to getting retainers go from sort of just doing SEO to doing consulting coming out with ways in which we can work with other verticals, right? Because we were so dominant on one vertical. And I think that made, and with the cash flow problem that I had to raise capital. So I was able to raise capital. I was able to get good terms from vendors. I was able to attract, and also the people who stuck around with me in those days, right? So the thing is, the people who left, right, regretted it, because at the end, 2012 is when we sold, right? The guys who retained, stayed with back, made a decent amount of money.
Got it.
And I think it made me a more, I think, seasoned entrepreneur. So what happens is that 2008, I was still a cowboy. 2012, when I sold to Dentsu, I was a much more seasoned entrepreneur. And then we were able to
You
grow.
see the downturn, and that's what
Exactly.
was
And
a
I
steep
think
learning curve, I
we
guess.
built a very resolute company, right? Because when we had survived that, we were able to build something which was among the best in the country had to offer. We had amazing relations with
So
clients.
Vivek, one follow-up question, because oftentimes when you go through a down phase and you have salaries to pay, business is down, clients are cutting budgets, all sort of factors are working against you. How do you keep yourself motivated and sort of go ahead? Because I mean, at the end of it, you obviously had a great outcome, but how do you keep yourself motivated in that phase to sort of keep on going?
Yeah. So, one good thing is, right, that because I've gone through a lot of hardships a lot of times, I've always seen that tomorrow is better. So generally what happens is, if they say that uh, picture abhi baki hai mere dost, so when some things are not going right, picture abhi baki hai.
Baki hai.
So I think I've always believed that happiness brings you success rather than success bringing you happiness. And I wrote a book on happiness.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's called Happiness is the Muscle. But the thing is, the key is, right,
It's
that,
an actual book?
yeah, so
Oh,
it's not published as yet, but it'll
okay.
get published in a month or so.
All right,
Consumer
okay.
AI has
Happiness is a
taken.
muscle. Very
So,
nice name. Okay.
in fact, Consumer AI started because of it, and I'll come to that
Okay.
story how it started because of the book. So I think it's very important that as a solo entrepreneur, you have to show a lot of passion and enthusiasm about your business. And you have to believe that the future is going to be. And see, what happens is, right, when you've done the right things, you have supported the clients, taken care of the interest, helped them meet the business goals. Just because for 1 year they stopped spending monies doesn't mean the relation were going anywhere. So all these relationships continued and they became extremely large clients. Once that, so in fact, it was in a way helpful because what happened was they couldn't afford conventional media because of the downturn. They started spending on digital and they started getting results. So they increased the digital spends. In fact, that 2008 2010 period improved the spends that these clients did thereafter.
Got you.
And because we became a more innovative company, we got some amazing people. We hired people which were reasonable now. We were able to get them into our culture. So I think, in a way, in hindsight, two good things happened. One is that it allowed us to transform the company. But I think, see, my passion, sometimes people tell me that I'm just more passionate than what you require, right? You're enthusiastic about everything. But I'll tell you an interesting story, right? I used to do sales and I used to have the sales guy. So I walked out of a meeting and I said, okay, you know what? This client is going to sign up.
Huh.
So he said, Vivek, I know you always say this, but honestly, I could see the body language. I don't think they're going to sign up. They're not convinced. And I thought to myself, am I just, saying this for the sake of saying it? Or I truly believe in my heart that they're going to sign up? And I actually believe that I actually felt they're going to sign up. So then I realized one interesting thing, right? Because he believes somewhere that they will not sign up, then the follow-up he does, the proposals that he works on, the solutions that he comes up with, the touch with the client that he wants to continue, all those things will be 99%. Right? I'll give it 101%.
Got you.
So what will happen is I became a significantly larger success in sales because the true belief is that I'm going to sign up a client. So somewhere what happens is because of that negative notion that they think the client is not going to sign
So
up,
you went the extra mile to sort of make sure everything
right?
is
Because I believed it, right? It's
Yeah.
not that at somewhere they would compromise something. If they were to give a 2-page proposal with some solution, they'll give a 1-page proposal with lesser
Got it.
solutions, right? Because in heart of heart, they feel it's not going to sign up,
Got it.
right? So I think that sort of that positive outlook towards life, right? And I think whether it's happiness, whether it's joy, whether it's believing that tomorrow is going to be better, it helps you sort of go through those downturns more effectively. And what happens is because I've seen the rock bottom, right? When we were talking about earlier, .com bust had happened. right? .com bust had happened. We had completely got wiped out. People were not making websites. People were not spending monies.
All of those things.
People had walked out on us.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was rock bottom. So I said, okay, here is still not rock bottom, right? We are still a 200 people team. We're still working with all these clients. They're spending less monies, but we will survive. So and what happened was, I think sports also has played a very important role. When I used to play for UP State, I used to travel to Muzaffarnagar and Meerut, sleep in sort of chatais on the municipality schools of these places and play tournament the whole day. And these used to be bricks where the bricks were uneven. So I had a charmed childhood in Mussorie.
Yeah.
And I would go for these tournaments. I was just one of those kids who were playing.
You would rough it out over there.
So I said that when you've done that, right, when you slept in khatmal based chatais without fans and the seniors are playing cards and seen that life, what happens is that how bad can it get? Means at the end of the day, you've seen rock bottom, like how worse can it get? Right?
Correct.
So I think that also gave me a lot of passion. So in fact, my father had told me something very interesting, right? So 10 years Communicate2, we were doing okay, but we were not doing well. And he said, Vivek, you get up at 6 a.m., you go to the office, you come back at 2 o'clock sometimes, you work Saturday, Sundays. In our entire family, I think you work the most. So I was thinking, finally, somebody's recognizing my hard work and he's giving a pat on my shoulders. Then he tells me, how come you make the least amount of money? So I said, you know what, Papa? He says that जब दिमाग कम होता है तो मेहनत ज़्यादा करनी पड़ती है. So basically what happened was, luckily when the company got sold, he was 86 years old and he saw the company getting sold. And in a way, he had said a sentence to me that तूने मेरी शाम रंगीन कर दी.
अरे वाह.
Right? So I still remember.
Ultimate compliment from your father.
Yeah. So I'm so glad he saw it. He passed away in 2013 and we sold the company in 2012.
Oh, which is just before that.
So it was sad he didn't see the next part of the phase, but at least he saw. He would tell me that in his days, right, lakpati meant something.
Correct.
So he says, तुमको एक साथ में हजारों लाख रुपए मिले, तुम हजारों लोगों को लखपति बना सकते हो.
Correct.
So for him it was a big thing, and I was able to buy him a nice car. I was able to buy an apartment in Chaitanya Towers where I was able to stock up his bar with vehicles. I was able to,
All of those things.
And he was quite vindicated because he had asked me to leave the family business and start this, and he supported me for so many years, right? So I'm so happy that he saw this happen.
Wonderful. So Vivek, let's sort of talk about some of your experiences with Dentsu. Because then from Communicate2, you moved to Dentsu, which is a global agency. You spoke about the acquisition. Now, how did that scaling up, or how did that business grow at Dentsu?
So I think they came back again in 2012.
Okay.
At that time, they actually acquired a much more resolute company. The team was great. We had good clients, and I honestly,
So you picked up the conversation after 4 years with the same gentleman.
Same gentleman, Ashish Bhasin.
Okay.
Same gentleman. Nigel was still. Nigel was still in the. He had by that time became the number 2 guy in the world.
Okay.
Right after Jerry Bullman, he became the number 2 guy, and this time around, I said, okay, listen, there is no announcement before the money hits the bank. So, and there's a long stop date. They worked very, very hard, and I think, in hindsight, the best thing that happened to me was they walked out on me, because first of all, I made 10x more monies in selling in 2012. If the way I had, if I had sold in 2008, I would have made 110 the monies. Second thing is, I think I learned entrepreneurship through fire. Right. So that 4 years made me the entrepreneur I am today. Right?
Gotcha.
So I think that 4 years of experience was very valuable to me. So I now know how to build companies and importance of
How did
cash
that
flow.
experience now translate into Dentsu, which is a global company? How did that spirit of individual entrepreneurship translate into much
So
larger
very
company?
interesting story. I just sold my company and there was a conference in Greece.
Okay.
So there was a bus that took us to that, cocktail party in the night. And I was sitting next to this person called Jean Lim. So
Okay.
Jean Lim is now the top 3-4 people in Dentsu even today. Okay. And she had sold her company Wins to Isobar in the network and a very successful earnout. So I asked Jean that, I've just sold my company last month. If you were to advise me, how should I increase my earnout? So they acquire a company over a 5-year period, right? So how do you increase your earnout? So she told me something that I never forgot. She says the best way to increase the earnout is to not think of the earnout.
All right. Okay.
Right? Because what happens is when you start thinking the earnout, what happens is you start saving costs. You don't hire expensive people. You start compromising some way or the other to increase profits. But then what happens is that it catches up, right? So I always paid more than the market. I always did things which was back and beyond for the client. If that culture changed, right, we would have not built a successful. We grew 15x during a period.
Oh, wow.
But I think the Gene Williams advice, I took it to heart. So we used to have this
Stay focused on the path of excellence. And
because see, you
just
build
do
a
it.
successful company just because you earn out. If you figure out how to increase profits, right, it will not survive. Right?
Correct.
So it was very clear. So one of the, I'll give you one example, right? We used to have this annual conference where people would take their employees and we would have a global conference which was abroad. So, Delhi agency is made up of real young people who have actually never been abroad. So they were
Correct.
making passports for this conference. So all the Dentsu employees, because who were not in the earn out, they would take 100 people, right? All the people in the earn out, they would take 2, 3 people, 5 people, because what will happen is that, at the end of the day, it erodes 1 crore of profit. And then 1 crore profit, you end up getting 3 crores in the end of the year, right? So you are losing 3 crores for every 1 crore you spend. I used to take 100 people every time. I would take most of my team. And so many times it felt very illogical, because what would happen is you're losing money every year because of the decision you're taking. But what I realized was that this was their first trip abroad. We were making passports for it. I was making money, I'll make a little bit less money. But what happened was the commitment that I got from the team and the talent that joined me, and they saw that I was not taking care of my own interest, I was taking care of their interest. And if you ask me in hindsight, I'm so happy I did that.
So that is the best investment you made in your people.
Exactly. And then what happened was that the leadership saw it, right? Ashish saw it. So then what happened was when my earnout got over also, right, he gave me the responsibility of actually heading the performance group. And so Sokrati dovetailed into me, iProspect dovetailed into me. We built a consulting arm with Lalit Bhagia, who basically ran the consulting part of it. We acquired SVG, where Anurag used to head it. And but Anurag passed away, a very sad story. But we were able to build this team of almost 1,500 people in performance, which was so far ahead of everybody else in the market, because people trusted me. They felt I was authentic. So, and I wouldn't even take credit for this, right? Because Anubhav built Sokrati, Rubina built iProspect thereafter, Anurag built SVG, Lalit built Consult. But just that 4 or 5 people dovetailing into you and you giving them the freedom to do what they need to do, and almost had like a sort of a push relationship with them. I said, look, if I can help you in sales, I'll help you in sales. But everything else is pull. You tell me what you need from me. Otherwise, I'm not going to interfere on a day-to-day basis. I'm not going to micromanage the way you run the company as a CEO, right? And that allowed them to get the same freedom. And I was just passing on the same freedom that Ashish Bhasin gave me.
Got it.
Right? Because he gave me the freedom to run the Dentsu Performance Group the way I wanted to run it. I gave the same freedom.
So in terms of billings, can you give us an idea about the billings or the revenue for the business that you sort of grew with Sokrati and iProspect and all of those?
So see, Dentsu is a listed company, so I don't want to say much
all right.
about the
so
billings.
just give us multiple, 5x or
this, right?
3x growth.
Yeah. So we grew almost 12 to 15x during my reign on the earnout when I was growing iProspect. Our team size, then Dentsu Performance Group started off with this 100, 200 people of iProspect, but I think that team of Dentsu Performance Group grew to almost 1,500 people.
Okay.
And all of billing is just people multiplied by a number, right? So we grew almost 10 to 12x. And I think it was a wonderful journey. We were able to price our services superior and we were deliver superior value. So I think that combination created a virtuous ecosystem. I still remember HDFC Bank had called for some agency pitch. There was a person called Kavita Joshi there, and she gave me a call and she said, Vivek, I don't know how to explain it, but I've never felt so much pride working with a partner. He said, like, what happened? So he said, there was this agency who would come. They started a presentation. The middle of the presentation, they asked me, who am I working with? So I said that we're working with, Communicate2. You won't believe it, Vivek, they shut down the presentation.
Oh, really? Okay.
They didn't complete the presentation. They said that no, you won't work with us. And we may not be able to deliver as much value as you desire. She was shocked.
So basically, a competition just bowed out.
Just imagine, right? In the middle of the presentation, he refused to continue the presentation. I said, like, this is the best compliment I've ever received for the company that we built.
Wonderful. Interesting. So Yeah, that's a fascinating story. So Vivek, now let's move on to a couple of other areas over here. You've been a successful entrepreneur. Uh, what are the how do you make a decision? Is it cat based? Is it data based? Is it a combination of that? When you see an opportunity and you decide, listen, this opportunity is worth pursuing, how do you decide?
So, by the way, I have done a comprehensive course on decision making.
All right,
It's called
okay,
Decision by Design by this guy called Shane Parrish. And he releases one video every week on one aspect of decision making. And this is a 12-week course. He just gives you one video, implement it, and the next week, the next video comes. He used to charge $500 for this course when I did it about 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Now he charges $1,500 and he's always waitlisted. So you apply today, after 3 months you'll get, and it's the recorded video,
so
right?
what is the essence of that?
So basically what essence of that is that whenever you're taking a decision, right? So let's say the first chapter is, before you take a decision, you have to first of all identify the right question you're trying to answer. So a lot of time what happens, we jump to solutions while we've not actually articulated the problem. So I'll give you an example. There's a dog shelter, and the dog shelter, basically what happened was that they were getting more dogs and they were not getting adopted. So they were saying, okay, we have to increase adoption. Okay. So they focus on adoption, they would do advertising campaigns, but again the dog shelter would get full, etc. Then somebody asked a question that what is the percentage of people who are returning dogs? And they found that percentage was almost 30 to 40%. I said, like, 40% of people are returning dogs because they couldn't afford to feed the dog.
Oh, okay.
Right? But they come to the shelter, they have to feed them in any case. So what they did was, then they articulated the problem that we have to keep dogs with the owners. But that's good for the dog, it's good for the owner, and if the owner can't afford to feed them, can we provide them with food? Right? Instead of providing them food in the shelter, we'll provide them food in their own homes. So they said, okay, if we were to provide you food in your tough times, would you keep the dog? And a lot of those 40% of the people decided to keep the dog. So now what happened was they solved the problem. Earlier they were trying to increase the adoptions, but the core problem was not identified. So when you take a decision, so many times we start jump into decision making without even identifying what the core problem is, right?
Got it.
So adoption was not the core problem. Retention of dogs with the owners was the core problem, right? So how do you increase that? So like I'll give you an example. Like one of the things that happens in Mount Everest is a lot of people who climb the Everest actually die while coming down,
Okay.
right? Not while going up. So generally what happens is, when you're in the heat of the moment, you're emotional about it, right? You see the summit 100 meters away. Even you know that your oxygen could be depleting and you can, I'll wing it. And then obviously, then you have to hurry back down and then you have a fall or your oxygen gets over. So what you do is that when you take a decision, don't take a decision in that heat of the moment. Set the parameters today when you are down on the ground, and then take a decision, and based on that you'll take a very sensible decision. So let me give you an example. During COVID, I had started cycling. So
Okay.
we decided to go to Karjat. Now Karjat was about 80-90 kilometers from here. And before I embarked on the journey, I decided three things. First thing is, if my heartbeat goes up and doesn't come down, even if I slow down cycling, I will stop. If a certain part of my body starts aching and the ache keeps on increasing, I will stop. If there is rubbles on the road or pebbles on the road and the road is not good and I have a chance of falling, I will stop.
Got it.
So I reached about 80 kilometers, and then there is this patch which was quite, a lot of pebbles and.
You cycled from Mumbai to Karjat?
Yeah, there was
Okay.
one patch which is, we had to go to some bungalow, right? So then the patch came in. So we were about 10-15 of us. So he told the car, I'll put the car in my bike in the car and stopped at the next village and took a beer. And I stopped. And everybody said, why are you giving up now? I said, no, I'm not giving up. Right? Whether I do 90 kilometers, 80 kilometers, doesn't matter. I decided in Bombay the three reasons because of which I will stop. And one of the reasons have been met. But if I had taken the decision at that point of time, right, I would have continued. Luckily, nobody fell and nothing untoward happened. But the thing is, if you take a decision today that this is how you're going to do this, instead of postponing the decision at that point of time, it allowed me to basically take a decision in this manner.
What
right?
you're saying is a lot of deep reflection, and then you sort of take action because most often people sort of jump to conclusions, like you said. So it's a little bit of reflection and then a measured approach towards taking the
So
next
I'll give
step.
you an example, right? I have never drunk and driven ever. Not
Okay.
even one drink, right? So for me, so what you do is over a period of time, you articulate the beliefs. What are the beliefs that empower you? What are the beliefs that limit you? So one of the beliefs is that if there is a high risk, there has to be a high reward, right?
Absolutely.
So if you're driving, even with one drink, something untoward happens, it can become a very complicated life, right? So I said, okay, there's no high reward, right? You tell me, okay, like one drink, if you reach your home, I'm going to pay you 10 crore rupees, right? Will I be willing to take the risk? I will take the risk,
Correct.
right? Because at the end of the day, there is a high reward waiting. But you're not going to get 10 crore rupees if you reach home safely. So then why should you take that risk? So for me, high risk has to be like lead to high reward, then I'll take a risk accordingly. Even the lens that you use, so you had mentioned Shadi and Anupam is a friend, and I was talking to him. In fact, right now we did a fireside chat and we covered this whole thing about decision making. So he talks about this thing that when you take decisions, you use different lenses. So one lens is the logical and rational reason for doing so. Second lens is the emotional reason for doing so. Third is the conditioning, the parvarish, the way you're being brought up. And the fourth is ego and vanity. There is no problem if you take a decision which is ego and vanity related, as long as you're aware of it. So let me give you an example. I own a table tennis team called Goa Challengers. We're currently champions in ultimate table tennis.
Oh, really?
We're
Okay.
really proud to win that thing. And there's a very interesting story how we won it.
What is it called? Goa?
Goa Challengers.
Goa Challenges.
Right?
Okay.
So it's a very interesting story how we won the championship
Okay.
last time, and I'll share that with you. So completing Anupam's thought, right? So basically, when I bought the team, right, I thought we'll get sponsors, the value of the team will go up, and there is money to be made. That doesn't happen, right? It takes 10 years before.
Even with your
leagues before that,
experience in the
with
media
that, right?
business.
Media business, right? And then what happened was, I realized that, see, listen, I'm not taking a loan to buy this team. I'm spending this money allows me to sit in the owner's box for 17 days. Allows me to say the world number 8 plays in my team. Allows me to hobnob with Ronnie Screwvala and Neeraj Bajaj and all these people. Per se, they become friends, right? So I thought to myself, I said, like, listen, if I wear the ego and vanity hat, and I'm saying I'm doing this for my own ego, right, with the money that I can afford to spend, now I really enjoy the league.
Got you.
Earlier, it would stress me out.
So basically, you change up the metric.
Exactly. It's an ego decision. It's a vanity decision. It's not a logical decision. Because
Correct.
if a logical decision was to make money from it, then what would happen is, I thought it's a logical decision. It's not. It's a vanity decision. Because I want that spotlight.
Correct.
Right? I want to come on television. I want to be a part of that
Absolutely.
experience, right? Okay, coming back to how we won the last league and how important it is to elaborate this one point that I feel a lot of people can learn from. So in the league, there are 6 teams. And every game that you win, you get 1 point. So what happened was, we got X number of points, and it's the semi-finals. We were the 4th team to qualify. If we had lost even one match that we had ever won,
Okay.
we would have not qualified. And every 10 all, there is a 1 point difference that if you get the 11th point, then you win the match. So this is called golden point. So imagine every single day, if we had even lost one game in all the matches we played, right, we were not qualified in the semi-finals. We won the semi-finals with 1 point.
Oh, really? Okay.
We won the finals with 1 point. Right?
Close.
So the way I look at it is, right, a lot of times people underestimate the power of compounding. Right? So that 17 days, if we had lost even one game in that 17 days, we would have not won the finals. Right? So think of it our lives, right? Are we spending our time productively every day? Because what you're doing today is going to influence the next 20 years.
Very
Right?
true.
It's compounding every day. So many times what happens is, we say, okay, you know what? Today was not a good day. I did this. But imagine if you have to give it your best every day. And I'm not saying every day means you work harder. So, there is a book called Uptime, which I was just started reading. If you spend the whole day watching Netflix to relax, right? That's fine. That's being productive. It's not that you have to work all the time. But like an athlete, you train, you perform, then you recover. So that combination. But the thing is that whatever you're doing today is compounding over a period of time.
Absolutely.
Right? Those 17 days, every single day was important, every single game was important, every single point was important.
But most people don't think in those terms, right?
So I didn't earlier, right? Honestly, this experience. So generally what happens, sport teaches you 2 things, right? One is it teaches you how to lose. A lot of people face challenges because they've not played sport in early childhood. As a sports person, you are used to losses, right? However good you are, you lose, right?
So
the
coping of
thing is-
failure is a
and-
key component over
and
here.
hard work beats talent. So you can be as talented as you want, but if you're not going to practice as much as me, eventually I'm going to beat you. Right?
Absolutely.
So two things it teaches you, and I think that's the reason I feel that everybody should play professional sport as a child. Like the Dentsu chairman, Tim Andre, used to be in Chicago Bulls.
Oh, really?
He
Okay.
was drafted along with Michael Jordan and others, right?
Oh, wonderful.
So, but he became the chairman for Dentsu globally, right? So I feel that playing some kind of professional sport as a child prepares you for real life because it teaches you hard work beats talent, and it teaches you how to lose. And I think a lot of kids today are not facing losses, right? Like my daughter's 21, she has 600,000 followers on Instagram. She makes tens of lakhs of rupees per month. The fact of the matter is that I'm struggling. How do I show her losses, right? How do you experience losses, right? Because at the end of the day, so in a way, she's now working on an entrepreneurship thing, and there I can see her struggle. So in
But I
fact,
think
I
life is
encourage.
a journey, right? So you'll see ups and downs, and when the downs come, some of these experiences in sports or other life experiences will teach you how to ride the wave.
Yeah. In fact, my daughter is, I've encouraged her to become an entrepreneur, and I can see her struggles, right? So one of the reasons was that, okay, I may lose some money, but she will learn what struggle is. She'll understand what failure is, and this prepares her for failures because everybody is going to go through some failures together.
Great. So Vivek, we touched upon selling a little bit. You used to sell concepts to agencies and clients. Can you talk about some of your sales philosophies that you strongly believe in, and maybe somebody can sort of practice that? What are some of your core tenets in selling?
Right. So see, selling, if you ask me, right, at so many times it's about tenacity and persistence. So they say that money grows on the trees of persistence. So I'll give you an example, right? Our focus market is US. That's where we basically
And
consumer
this is for
AI.
consumer data. Yeah,
Right. So
okay.
consumer AI charges between $300,000, $600,000, $1 million a year in SaaS fees. So Indian companies are not going to afford that. But to learn how to sell to these verticals, I made sure that last year I made a list of sort of 200 companies. Out of the 200 companies, I give a demo to 80 of them. We did small pilots of $12,000-$15,000 with almost 19 of them. Now we signed up about 3 of them to work with us on a yearly basis. But what happened was that the experience that I've got of pitching to 80 companies, that experience is going to be extremely valuable in the next growth of success because I know what the value we can provide to each vertical. And what happens when you work with an automotive vertical in India, then we can work with a company there and say, okay, automotive companies are using a platform in such a manner. So what happens is that I think nothing beats uh, a sales process, right? Where you have to decide. So let's say, suppose we want to acquire 100 clients. If you do, 300 pitches, 100 of them sign up with you. If you approach 1,000 people, then 300 do a pilot with you or a demo with you. So then what happens is you have to now reach out to 1,000 people, right? 1,000 people divided by 200 days, approximately you work, you reach out to 5 people every day,
Correct.
right? So if you reached out to 4 people today, you have to reach out to 6 people tomorrow, right? So on a day-to-day basis, you'll know whether you're going to meet your 100 client goal or not. So what happens is that process is very critical.
So there's a rigor
and
over there.
Exactly, every day, right? Because if I'm not doing those 2-3 pitches a day, then I'm not going to meet my goal, right? So whether you fail or succeed. So many times I've built good sales teams is I don't look at the performance they have. I also look at the rigor they have, right? What is your tell? What is your approach? What many people are you pitching to? How many of them you are talking to every day, right? Because all that if you do, then a lot depends on the product. It depends on
And
a lot
that's
of
when
other
the
factors.
compounding effect you were talking about takes in, right?
Exactly.
That's how the compounding
Right?
works.
Because what happens is that otherwise, even if you don't sell, you learn so much, right? Because at the end of the day, people will ask you questions. People say they'll come out with use cases of your product, etc. So I think is the most important part of sales, that you should have the rigor and the discipline to do it on a day-to-day basis. Even if you've had 4 bad pitches in a day, the 5th pitch should happen because you promised yourself. And
Got
over
it.
a period of time, what I've seen is one good pitch wipes out everything else and makes your day and makes your week,
Exactly.
right? So you're also driven by the energy when you get a good sale with a
Absolutely.
client.
So Vivek, now that you've building a new company, Consumer.ai, and you've built companies before, what is your thought about hiring the initial few people or the team members that come or the people who associate with you? What are the qualities that make a successful founding team?
Okay, so very interesting question, Gautam. So I'll tell you how consumer AI started. So what happened was I was writing this book on happiness, and I wrote a line in the night which said, "Happiness comes in the growth phase; it does not come in the phase of stagnation."
Okay.
Right? And next
Can
morning
you
I woke
elaborate
up.
what do you mean growth phase and
Yeah.
stagnation?
So basically, what happens is, right, when I woke up in the morning,
Hmm.
I asked myself, "Am I growing every day?" And the answer was no. Because what was happening was I had 4 to 5 CEOs dovetailing into me. They were running large teams. But on a day-to-day basis, I was not handling a P&L individually. All these P&L dovetailed. And if the P&L didn't work, I could always say this entrepreneur has not performed, right? If all of them are not performing, I think the industry is not doing well. So at the end of the day, I was not accountable for a number so precisely, right? More importantly, I had lesser role to play. I had more strategic role to play. I was on boards, I was going for large pitches, but I was not playing an operational role on a day-to-day basis. So I felt I was not growing. So I said, okay, can I build one more agency? Yes, I can. My earnout was over, my non-compete was over, everything. But I said, you know what? How will I grow? I have to do things that I haven't done before. First thing we said, okay, I will not provide services. We'll build a product company.
Got it.
Secondly, this time around, I want to work with a team of co-founders, right? So Gautam Mehra, Aman Khanna, we three of us started this company, right? So we're three co-founders bringing a lot of complementary skills out there, and I'll cover that. Then we said, okay, this is the market we're going after. What are we going to provide? So we said, okay, large enterprises have huge amount of first-party data, customer data, but all of them have only one singular lens of the customer, with a transaction the customer does with them. But
Correct.
if I were to ask you what cuisine do they like? Do they like wine or beer? Do they like cats or dogs? Do they like action as genre, comedy as genre? None of the brands know this about the consumers. So we thought that the Google ecosystem tells you what people are thinking. The Meta ecosystem, TikTok, Snap tells you what people are doing. Amazon tells you what people are buying. Spotify tells you what people are listening. If we connect to these 10, 12 platforms, we can tell large brands what their consumers are thinking, doing, and buying. And that will enable them to take better media decisions, build better creative, build better content, choose the right brand ambassador and influencers. Almost every single decision that an organization takes, which is based on their customers, can be made better,
Got
right?
it.
So this is the platform we launched at Consumer.ai, right? And what we thought was, okay, what are the key things that we need to achieve? We want to work with Fortune 100 clients. Most of the Fortune 100 clients are based in US. So we need to have a strength of sales and relationships in the US market. So Aman lives in Boston. He's an American citizen, originally went from here 20 years ago, but he understands the enterprise sales in US,
And the
right?
US nuances he understands.
Exactly, right? Gautam is one of the best tech brains in a way in the country, and he has built the entire platform, right? So I was very clear that it's a product company. He has the most important role to play because regardless how good we are at sales, we cannot actually sort of sell a product if it's not good, right? So the
Absolutely.
product has to be world class, and we're going to compete with the best companies in the world because we're going to go after Fortune 100 clients. So we don't have to be best in India; we have to be best in the world, right? And Gautam had the capabilities of building that kind of a platform that we want to sell. Thirdly, in product companies, capital is very important. In services companies, you make profit from day one. Here, it took us 2.5 years to launch the platform finally, which we are really happy with. We've done some initial MVPs for large clients, but November 22 is when we launched the platform, right?
Got it.
And these are platforms that cost between $300 to $1 million a year, right? So it's a very, very large enterprise level kind of a platform. So we raised about $5 million. So my
Okay.
strength was to raise the capital.
Got
And
you.
this was during COVID, right? So I made phone calls and people spent monies across. Some of them didn't even see the presentation. Either तू कुछ कर रहा है, मैं पैसे भेज देता हूँ.
Wow.
Right? They didn't
That's a
even see
sweet
the
spot to be
presentation,
in.
right? Yeah, because the thing is, see, what happens is, right, all three of us got the right strengths to the table. That capital was very critical, product was going to be very critical, sales in US was going to be critical. So when three of us came together, so I think what you do is that
So complementary skills came together.
and what are those key skills, right? So let's say if you are trying to build a Google kind of company, right? Then what happens is sales is not important in the early phases, right? Product is the key and it's product led growth. So then you'll have to focus a lot more on user experience, usability, technology, algorithm of how the index is going to work. All that thing is very key. But if you're building an enterprise sales company, right, which is going to go after the Fortune 100, Fortune 1000 companies, then consulting plays a very important role. The ability to work, having worked with those line of large organizations, CEOs of these companies, that skill set is very important, right? So then automatically the team that you build is dependent on what is the business objective and the goal your company has. Where do you see that company in the next 10 years? And will that team be able to build that company in the next 10 years to that level? Right. So that's how you actually build a co-founding team. And then what happens when you grow? So let's say the 0 to 1 phase, the co-founders had to sell. Right. Uh, on the 1st of Feb, we got a person called Harman Vestra who joined us as head of sales in New York. Now the thing is, now we are in that 1 to 10 phase. We have to make sure that we get a repeatable sales process.
Got it.
Right? And sales in US is not inexpensive, right? But a person who can work with large enterprises and actually create a consultative based sales strategy is not easy to find. And that is what is required, because founder-led sales will only get you so far.
Absolutely.
You need to have a repeatable sales process. That's the reason we got Harman on board. So over a period of time, our head of product system of Calgary, Danish Khan, right? He has a lot of experience in building large platforms that have been used by hundreds of clients or thousands of clients across 35, 40 markets in the world, right? So what we're doing is that this is the goal that we want to reach. How do you build up that sort of platform where you have, these are the 10 roles that are required at different stages of the company. And then what you do is that you invest in those roles at that point in time, right? So let's say we turn profit in September 23.
Wow.
Right? As a SaaS company, it's a big milestone for us, right? So we said, okay, every single dollar of revenues that we get now, we're going to reinvest it back into sales, right? So only after we did that, then we booked new clients, and as the new clients came in, we started investing with Harman and things and conference and other things, right? So the milestones. So when you're building a team, you need a certain core team to get the 0 to 1 phase. Then you need another team that goes from 1 to 10. Then you need another team that goes from 10 to 100. So you identify what that 1 is for you, what that 10 is for you, what
Got
that
it.
100 is for you.
So
and
every
then
business,
accordingly, because you cannot hire a 10 to 100 team member today,
Absolutely.
right? Because he's going to cost you a lot of money and he'll not be deliver value, right? If you go to a large company, if I have
I think
5,
that's a key point to make. I've seen some startups make the mistake where on day 0 they hire big guns, and then from 0 to 10 phase, because they're already loaded with expensive resources and the initial traction isn't there, and then the cookie crumbles.
yeah. Actually, that's one of the reasons we didn't raise institutional capital. Because when you raise institutional capital, there's a lot of pressure to spend that capital,
Ah,
right? Because we did friends and family, and though it was totally a $5 million, 3 plus 2, $5 million we raised. But what happens, it gives you patience, right? It allowed us to build the product we wanted to build. It allowed us to go after the clients we wanted to go after. Even the sales cycle for a Fortune 100 company is 1 year. We were able to invest in that sales cycle and get a Fortune clients on board, right? So I think you should be very clear that when you're bootstrapped, right, as a product company, it was still a lot of money. $5 million is also a small sum of money. But the fact of the matter is, it was not raised from a VC.
got
Right?
it.
Because what happens is the source of capital is very critical. If you were building a, let's say, product was ready, and now that we reach a certain sale. So I think when we hit about $8 to $10 million a year, we in the trajectory to get that. That's the time when we raise either a large Series A or a private equity round, etc. But till that, with the current team that we have, the money that we have in the bank, we can reach there pretty quickly, right? So the thing is, and then what we'll do is, if we will, by that time we should have ICP clear, ideal customer profile. We should have a sales, repeatable sales process clear, which is non-founder led. We should have very clear ways in which how we're going to use that money to increase our sales. Are we going to go global? Once all those questions are answered, right? It depends, right? You can answer those questions at 2 million, 3 million. You can answer that question at 10 million. I feel for our kind of company, which charges a significant amount of money, we need to do this at 10 million, right? We'll have answers to these questions and then we will go for a raise and accordingly then build a team, right? So
Got it.
as your company grows, you'll need different team members. So let's say right now, sooner or later, we'll have to get an analyst who can help us get in the quadrants of Gartner and Forrester.
Got it.
Are we too early for that? Yes, we are. Those people require time and require a lot of investment. But when we hit 5, then we should get that person board. When we hit 10, we should do this. When you hit 20, we should do this. So
So
our
it's all
goals are
milestone
clear.
based. So you have some milestones, and based on milestones, you're deciding what resources to add and what is the next level of growth will come from.
Absolutely.
Got it. Interesting. So Vivek, let's sort of talk about angel investing, because we were talking about consumer.ai, how did it start, all of that. Uh, your thoughts on angel investing? How does one go about doing that angel investing? As an entrepreneur, how do you access the angel networks? Because obviously there's a whole bunch of websites and digital information that one can go through. But generally, what is the secret sauce if somebody wants to crack angel investing?
So I think you have to first understand what an asset class is, right? So what happens is that angel investing can give you a CAGR of about 25 to 30% a year, but only if you do it in a portfolio format, right? So if you make one investment or two investments or three investments, there is a possibility you may get, a 5x return or 20x returns, but it can also become zero. If you really want some kind of consistency in CAGR, right, then you need to do minimum of 30, 40, 50 investments, right? So the approach that I have is this is actually followed by this book called Angel Investing by David Rose.
Okay.
He says that you need to have a portfolio, right? Then over a period of time, you will get a certain CAGR because most of it is going to fail, but some of them that succeed. So I have few investments today that are at 20x, 30x today, right? That pays for all the mistakes that I've made in angel investing. So I've done about 30, 35 investments. So that's my philosophy. Second thing is, I'll tell you what the way I do angel investing and my purpose behind it. So the amount of money that I put in angel investing, some of my checks are as low as 25 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, right? And some of them are a couple of crores also. But the fact of the matter is that return on investment is not my biggest benchmark for angel investing. For me, angel investing is about two or three things. First thing is, I think angel investing helps me learn new things. Because what happens is, if I'm investing in uh, let's say, a battery management software for uh, EV batteries, right, which is one of the investments I made called Ion Energy, or I'm investing in an MRI machine, which is an open MRI machine in California, or an influencer marketing company. What happens is I get to meet entrepreneurs who tell me what the future of the industry looks like. So when I do 30 investments, that means I've spoken to 200 entrepreneurs. The
Got it.
learning that I got from those entrepreneurs about what they think the future of the industry is going to be, I think is phenomenal, right? No amount of money can actually give you that learning. And once you invest even 10 lakh rupees in a company, right, I end up reading more about digital imaging and imaging than ever before. I learn about EV manufacturing and EV batteries and battery management software is a lot more than ever before. About influencer industry a lot more than ever before. Because what happens is, like, you start working with a brand and suddenly you see that brand everywhere.
Got it.
Right? In the same way, when you invest in a company, then you start seeing. So that gives you an accelerated learning. I think that as successful entrepreneurs, I think we owe it back to the entrepreneurship ecosystem. So a lot of times, I think we're driven by that you support an entrepreneur, right? And even if whatever support the entrepreneur needs from me, right? So many times if they want to write it off, so many times they want to return the monies, whatever they want to do, right? I give them the freedom. So every single entrepreneur who's worked with, nobody's going to say that, okay, Vivek has not been a fair investor. I never give them any grief because I'm not looking at financial returns as a key metrics. Learning is one, secondly, helping the ecosystem. Third thing, and I think you learn a lot and you get a lot of energy from entrepreneurs. Because what happens is that when I say I'm taking a risk with starting, consumer AI, leaving a cushy job in Dentsu, but when I talk to these entrepreneurs, when I look at the risk they are taking, I say, you know what, I'm not taking any risk. They are the ones who are taking the risk. So what happens is that
Some crazy examples can you quote of somebody taking an insane amount of risk?
So see, if you ask me, right, almost 90% of entrepreneurs that I meet today, they have left everything they're doing and they're taking a risk with entrepreneurship. Because I write the first checks, right?
Correct.
So I write the first check. My first check is 25 lakhs. Like, there is a company where three people came together, started this company 3 years ago called Simply.coach, right? Now, Simply.coach, basically, if you ask me, I knew Ram 15 years ago when he was the CEO for Sabre Nitro in India. He left that, went to Pondicherry, started building a coaching business because he wanted his daughter to study in the Aurobindo school. He started this company with his brother-in-law and one other friend, and like they came to me with very early idea, and I wrote a 25 lakh rupee check. Right now they're raising almost a 60 crore round as we speak, right? So my investment will come 20x in that investment, right? But I wrote a check when there was nothing on the table, right? So that's the way I do my angel investing. So the purpose behind it is not just financial reward.
Got
So
it.
if you want financial reward, first of all, have the ability to do 30, 40, 50 investments, right? So if you have 1 crore to invest, then what you do is you put 2 lakh rupees in each company. You have 20 crores to invest, then accordingly put, 20 crores divided by 50 as each investment that you make. Don't get excited about putting 2 crores in one company. Don't get excited about and put 1 lakh in one company. Try to find approximately a benchmark and do it. If you do it over a 5-year period, you do 50 investments. Over the next 10-year period, I think you will get a CAGR of 25 to 30%, right? So understanding that is very important, and don't make financial goal as the main objective, because there are a lot of other vehicles that can give you similar 25% CAGR returns, right? Through mutual funds or a lot of other investments, which is less risky. And second thing is you can liquidate it immediately, right? Angel investing is a long haul game, right? So till the time they decide to give us an exit or a strategic acquisition happens, right? There is no exit.
So how does a entrepreneur who's sort of watching this and wants to contact you, how does he get in touch with you? What are the things that you look for an entrepreneur that sort of you decide, okay, yaar, is pe bet karunga main? What are the things that sort of move the needle for you?
Yeah.
Yes, technology is one part of it. The market opportunity is one part of it. You see, okay, this is a data-driven thing. Okay, I can see the market. I can see the technology that you're building. What else are the things that move the needle for you?
Okay, so I'll tell you what are the things that are important for me. First thing is, I generally like people approach me through a reference. Right? That's important for me, because I know so many people. If you can't get one person to recommend you, that itself is a problem for me.
So you don't appreciate cold calling or cold approaches. Got it.
Because the thing is, then you are like any other person, right? So if let's say I know Gautam and they've approached me through you, at least some credibility is there. If you approached me through one of my other angel investments who have been done successfully, even better. If I get approached through a VC and VC says, hey, listen, there's a space that we want to enter in, but right now it's too early stage. Would you be willing to consider this space, right? So then obviously even better, right? So the fact of the matter is, the introduction you come from is important. Second thing, team is very critical, right? And team doesn't mean only the Ivy League and IIT, IIM Bombay. It's people who per se have experience, or people who are passionate about a certain industry, or they are the ones. So they say a great team with a mediocre idea is better than a mediocre team with a great idea.
Yeah,
right?
well,
So the team is very,
true.
very critical. Are they going after an addressable market? Is that large enough, right? Are they solving a large enough problem? Do they know a problem they're solving, right? So what is the pain point people are facing that they will not be able to sort of live without that pain point, right? Nice to have, a lot of things are there, but must to have, fewer things are there, right? So for us, when we're doing consumer AI, we said, listen here, people have first buy data. They're frustrated. They don't know anything about the consumers. If we can solve this problem, brands get a 360-degree view of what a consumer looks like. That will be phenomenal, right? People will then use it to
Correct.
improve everything they do, right? So then it's a must problem, right? It's a big problem that we're trying to solve, right?
Exactly.
So that's something that I would look at
So now,
per se.
taking a cue from consumer to AI, obviously the SaaS company, and the go-to market is the US market for you for now. What stops you, or what do you think are the impediments for SaaS companies in India, and something for your company as well? Is the Indian market or the mindset not ready for it, or we too price conscious that we'll beat down the SaaS company to the lowest common denominator?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I think it's a mindset problem. I'll tell you what the mindset problem is, right? See, we come from a scarcity economy.
Correct.
So what happened was that if you take my father, what did probably me, or that age wanted somebody to have a government job. And if you take my age group, then we wanted to have Infosys. So it's a little bit of security, but money also. But if you take my daughter and their kids, right, possibly they would like to work for a company like Red, right, where there is a huge risk, but there is a larger financial reward, right? So what happens is that that is changing, where people are now moving into abundance economy. But that's what India was pre-colonization, right? And then now it's a scarcity economy. So the thing is, when I pitch to US, right, the biggest difference that I've seen is an American company looks at that, okay, can I use this software to make more monies? Can I solve a problem that I can't solve today? The biggest question that Indian companies think is, how can I use this to save money?
Correct.
Just
So
imagine, right?
growth versus saving is a mindset.
It's like, just imagine every single IT guy in the country, right? What is his primary goal for the last 30 years? Save monies. Nobody looks at IT from a competitive advantage point of view, or to actually make money. So what happens is, because of that mindset, what happens is the first thing is, oh, can I do this in-house?
Ah,
So, the consumer in US will buy this Bulgari bracelet or not buy it. Even Tanishq wants to sell a bracelet out here. वो बोलेगा इसमें gold कितना है, diamond कितना है, making कितना है, and they are asking so many questions. They're not thinking as a consumer, they're thinking as a business person, right? So my wife goes to Tanishq, she will ask these questions.
got it.
An American consumer will not ask these questions. So we come from this scarcity mindset, right? Can I make this in-house? Can I do this? Will it help me save money? Because I think in the abundance world, right? If you take AI is creating this abundance world. If Indian companies don't create a culture of abundance mindset, they're going to lose out. Because just imagine, right? Today we are selling this software for $600,000, etc. in US. We're selling $120,000 in India, and luckily we've signed up a few people like Funds and Petals, etc. who are working with us. But the fact of the matter is, because of savings they signed up, but this can give them a big competitive advantage. So a lot of large companies in India are losing out on good platforms and good software and good AI technologies because they come from the scarcity problem. If they don't solve this scarcity, the SaaS company will find a US market.
I think as a society evolves, this mindset will sort of go away. So
Yeah, it's
that
not
is a
easy.
societal sort of
it's very ingrained.
it's a
very
mindset
ingrained.
problem which is not going to go away anytime soon. It's sort of
No, but I think if you ask me, large companies in India, if they don't get rid of this mindset and start focusing on how technology can give them a competitive advantage, how AI can disrupt their business and how they can use AI to disrupt other businesses, they will lose out. So what will happen is the SaaS companies will go after the larger markets like US. So that means what will happen is they will actually not offer that platform. Now this platform can be so useful to Indian companies, but we are going after the US market, right? So
Absolutely.
the Indian companies who could have used it are losing out.
correct. So Vivek, as we wrap it up, just want to wrap it up with one of your things that you said early on is about the compounding effect. Everybody is trying to sort of make incremental improvements in their lives and keeping a long-term vision. Can you just sort of wrap it up for our audiences, if that is like one of the secret mantras for success?
Okay. So I'll tell you my philosophy, right? My belief is that, you know, every day your life is like this. You have to do something that creates this 1% delta in the direction of your life, right? Now, nobody knows what that 1% is, and nothing will happen next week, next month. But when you take this 1%, 20 years down the line, you'll end up in a different place. So now the thing is, an entrepreneur was asked that, how do you become successful? So he said, you know what? I jumped at the right opportunities. He said, but how do you know which were the right opportunities? He said, you know what? I didn't. I kept jumping.
Correct.
So I'm just saying that, are we doing these 10, 20, 30 jumps every day? Are we putting ourselves in a place where that 1% delta could happen? So whether I'm doing a Harvard course, whether I'm going to Singularity University, whether I'm going to the Arctic Circle, whether I'm going to the Everest Base Camp, each of this could create this 1%. Now Harvard is a, sort of a 21-week course, right? So now if you take about it, or 9-week course. So when you take a 9-week course, it's 27 days. I'm going to meet alumni. I'm going to discover different companies. I'm going to learn some content from the professors. I'm going to be 3 weeks completely isolated from my business. So I'm going to have a lot of introspection. Will that create 1% multiplied by 27 number of days I'm there? Will that lead to a better life 20 years online, 10 years online, right? It will. So what I've tried to do is that I think learning is very critical. Whether it's learning through courses, whether it's learning through books, is learning through conversations. Because what happens is that 1% delta that you get because of something you learned something new will make your life very different. And just imagine, right? 1% improvement a day is thousands of percent improvement compounding every year. So
Absolutely.
you fast for 10, 20, 30 years, you'll end up in a completely different place. So today I am here today because I'm doing that 1% for tens of years, and
Got
I
it.
make it
So
a
if I were
point
to
every day.
summarize this for a common man or somebody who's listening, is basically consciously working towards your goal or consciously improving in whatever that you're doing. It could be, and then incrementally building on it, and with the long-term vision in mind, and it sort of pays off.
So you know what? There are two ways in which you can look at this, right? I think discipline beats goals.
Discipline beats
Goals.
goals.
Right? So instead of saying, so you take atomic habits or some other things, right? You're just saying, I'm going to read 50 books in a year. I say, I'm going to read half an hour every day. That's it. right? Because the thing is, if you read half an hour every day, you'll end up with 50 books. But when you say 50 books a year, nothing
Correct.
will happen.
Absolutely.
Right? By saying it itself, the
So small
endorphins and the
incremental
dopamine.
steps is what will
Right?
get
If I say
you.
I'm going to run the marathon, the dopamine is already produced.
Correct.
Right? But if I say, okay, you know what, I'm going to increase the distance I'm going to run. I'm going to run 20 minutes every day. And in that 20 minutes, I'm going to cover more and more. Then it's 30 minutes, there's 25 minutes. So you will say, right, start with 1%, like 1 minute meditation. It's not that 1 minute is important. If you have the discipline of doing 1 minute every day, then one day will become 2 minutes, will become 5 minutes, will become 10
Got
minutes,
it.
right? So the discipline trumps goals.
Got it.
And I think it's very critical that figure out that how can you put yourself into opportunities which can create that 1% delta. So learning new things puts you in an opportunity. Going for, conferences, meeting new people, even coming for a podcast like this, right? But what happens is when I'm saying these things, I'm articulating some of this in my mind, and I may have forgotten something that I'm doing, which I said, I'll start doing it. So the fact of the matter is, can you put yourself into environments where there is a possibility that 1% can happen?
Absolutely.
So make sure that every day you wake up that, okay, I'm going to put myself in these 2-3 opportunities where that 1% delta could happen in my life, right? And then you land up in a different place 20, 30 years down the line.
Wonderful. Hey, Vivek, that was fascinating. Thanks for it. Thanks for coming on the podcast. And I hope the viewers will learn something from this. Thanks again.
My pleasure, Gautam. It was wonderful to be here, and thanks for the coffee, and it was lovely to be here.
All right. Thank you.